the whole economy is basically dependent on the maritime industry. So super interesting, and to hear about the challenges when it comes to well-being out at sea. And like Charlotta said, the possibilities that digital health solutions can have to improve the health out at sea, and ultimately also attracting and recruiting new seafarers.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Laine Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 221. If you're here for the first time, you're in for a treat. There are 220 episodes to listen to prior to this one. In this episode, I enjoyed talking with two PhD students from the IT University in Jönköping, Sweden, Charlotta Herkommer and Sandra Siljevik Laine. They are not studying for a career in the maritime space, but in the IT world. Nevertheless, they chose digital health solutions for the maritime industry as their thesis. As a result, you will notice that they now have got the bug. So please enjoy our conversation. This is Sandra and Charlotta for you.
Every conversation matters.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourselves? Charlotta?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Charlotta Herkommer, and I'm currently in Halmstad, and I have written a master thesis within the topic of seafarer well-being and digital health solutions together with Sandra, who is here as well.
Yeah, my name is Sandra Siljevik Laine, and I'm currently based in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. And as Charlotta said, we've been writing our master thesis last semester. So that's what we're here to talk about.
What were you studying?
We were studying at the same program at Jönköping International Business School at the Digital Business Program. So it's a 2-year master degree program.
How come you explore the maritime industry?
Yes, it's actually interesting. So we both did our internship here in Florida, where we met Peter and Laine from Weekend. So they inspired us to write about this topic while we did our internship.
So what was your internship? What did you do then?
So we were both at the Swedish-American Chamber of Commerce. So we were here for 6 months. And yeah, that's where we met Peter and Laine.
And I don't know if everyone knows about Weekend, but it's a company who have specialized in medical services and risk mitigation solutions for the maritime industry. And they are members of the Swedish-American Chamber of Commerce. So that's how we got in contact with them or got to know them. And they told us about first of all, the need for improvements for seafarers and the possibilities that there are with digital health solutions to create improvements for seafarers when they're working at sea.
And what was your first impression when you entered the maritime industry?
It was super interesting. And it's such an important industry. Like the whole economy is basically dependent on the maritime industry. So super interesting, and to hear about the challenges when it comes to well-being out at sea. And like Charlotta said, the possibilities that digital health solutions can have to improve the health out at sea, and ultimately also attracting and recruiting new seafarers. Yeah, so super interesting.
The reason for me asking is that I don't think we are doing a very good job in branding the maritime industry. So no one knows about us. I'm happy that you discovered us.
Yeah, so were we. Yeah, we didn't know much about it until we started writing our thesis. So it's been a very interesting journey and very exciting to get to know this industry because it is a very important one.
Yeah, definitely.
So what is your findings? Please give us the short version of your entire work here.
Yeah, the short version. We'll try to make it short. We worked for, I think it's 6 months on this thesis. And we started off by researching at the maritime industry and how digital health solutions can create improvements, not firstly regarding the maritime industry, but employees in general, where we found that there are a lot of potentials with digital solutions to create improvements for employees and also for the maritime industry, but it hasn't actually been researched that much. So we didn't find any previous research on like how digital solutions could create improvements for seafarers, although we did find a lot on how there is a need for improvements in this industry. Both, like Sandra just said, when it comes to attracting and recruiting new talent. And when we continued our research, we found that technology acceptance is a very important aspect when you introduce new technology. And technology acceptance, like easy explained, it's the intention to use an effective use of new technologies for its intended purpose. So if employees do not accept and actually want to use the new technology, an implementation of it will not result in the intended improvements. Then we kind of decided that, okay, let's take in the aspect of acceptance and research how the maritime industry accepts digital solutions and the impact this have on the seafarer well-being.
Yeah, so basically, like Charlotta said, we had two sort of like theoretical blocks. One was employee well-being and the other one was acceptance. So what we basically found was that we used a framework to see what influenced acceptance in the maritime industry specifically. So we found that there were certain factors that influenced the acceptance, such as how open you are to change, how this implementation will be communicated, and those sort of factors. And then we also looked more into seafarer well-being as a concept and found that it constitutes of both physical, mental, and social aspects. So seafarers usually saw these three aspects as important for their overall health. And then we sort of connected the seafarer well-being aspect with the acceptance, where we find that there are different levels of acceptance and that ultimately has an impact on the seafarer well-being itself.
Is there a difference between acceptance by people who work on shore and the people working at sea?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It's definitely the prerequisites out at sea are definitely very different from when you're inland. So we can't really say if there are any difference, but I'm sure that they are.
We didn't specifically look into like the differences between onshore and offshore. We more looked at the industry as a whole, but I'm sure there are some differences if you would more specifically look into that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, if I'm working in a ship owner's office on land, will I be more open to acceptance when it comes to digital tools or compared to the people working at sea in a ship?
No, but I think it depends, because there are certain things when you're at shore that you don't have when you're at sea that can, affect your acceptance. So to say, just like the easy fact that when you're at sea, you don't always have a good internet connection. And that can maybe affect how you view the use of digital health solutions, and that you don't find them as useful when you're at sea. And also that can be kind of like a barrier that you need to overcome, that there are certain things that needs to be in place before you actually could implement digital health solutions when you're at sea.
Yeah. But I think what was also interesting was to hear that in general, people were speaking about the maritime industry as quite a conservative industry, both when it comes to technology in general, but also when it comes to well-being. But it was interesting to hear that a lot of people were seeing this as something that was changing, that technology was something that they're getting more used to and even more open towards using. And same when it comes to well-being. That was not something that they experienced was discussed a couple of years ago, but now that's starting to be something that you're actually talking about, even out at sea. So I think that was one finding that we thought was really interesting to hear, that sort of both those aspects are changing, where it used to be more conservative.
I think the COVID was, if there was anything good with COVID, it was that we started to look upon digitalization as something that we need, and also to focus on the seafarers and their well-being, to understand what it's like to be a seafarer, working at sea and delivering what we were expecting at home. So I think that is great.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember one of the, like a lot of the people that we interview, maybe that's something we should mention. Like we did 18 interviews with seafarers and managers and industry experts. And that is what we have based our findings in combination with the previous research and literature. And I remember a lot of the interviews, they talked about how COVID kind of, it was this like spark that created change. And it changed a lot in the maritime industry.
Sad in a way that we didn't change before that. On the other hand, I also think that there is a generational change right now. There are so many people who will be retiring, or if they haven't already retired. So there is a lot of young people coming into our industry.
Yeah.
And if you grew up with digital tools around you, then it's a different thing to accept that in your workplace as well, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But then there is a difference between, I think there is a line between having digital help in your workplace and wearables, things you wear on your body.
It is. Yeah. There are a lot of different kinds of digital health solutions, and that you can have different features. And that definitely depends on like what kind of digital health solutions you are using.
Yeah, and I think what's also good about these digital health solution is that it's possible to adapt to personal needs. And that was something we found as well, that seafarers, even if they're a group of people, they all have different needs, which is something that ultimately digital health solutions might be able to overcome with adapting to their needs out at sea.
Yeah, there must be a difference between someone working on a ship crossing the Atlantic and someone working on a car ferry between two islands who can go home and sleep in the evening.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very culturally diverse workforce at sea. So yeah, that aspect that you can personalize it to what you find important for yourself, for your own well-being, is like probably one of the main benefits of using digital solutions.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's what we sort of found, that as in seafarer well-being, we found that it constitutes both social, physical, and mental well-being. But we also found that digital health solutions can actually have an impact on all three of them.
Yeah.
So that's a huge benefit.
I also saw that you wrote something about integrity and who will be reading my data.
Yes.
Do I own the data? Things like that. Did that come up in your discussions with the people?
Yes. I think pretty much all of our interviews did mention, the data privacy aspect and how that is something that needs to be considered before you implement something like this. So it's definitely a very important aspect, and probably, it's something you can overcome, but it can also be a bit tricky to overcome.
But yeah, a lot of them mentioned that it's very important that it's clearly communicated how the data will be used and stored and who will have access to it. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when implementing something like this.
And something that was brought up many times was the intention of use, like why you would implement such solutions. And that it is important that it is for the seafarers and not for, let's say, the owners of the ship, that they have a personal agenda, or that it's for the seafarers and their well-being, and that they are kind of part of the implementation and how they want such solutions to be used.
Did you get any feedback on people who really, really wanted this and the benefits from having such tools available?
Yes, I would say we did. I'm trying to think what was mentioned. I think the flexibility that you can, when it comes to working out, that was something that was mentioned a lot. And that like your sleep can be really disturbed when you're at sea. And that's something you can use digital solutions to kind of help you improve your sleep patterns, and something that a few had used and really found it useful.
Yeah, I guess in general, because healthcare is quite restricted out at sea, a lot of people were positive to these sort of things, and the fact that it can overcome some of the barriers of being like isolated out at sea.
Yeah. And
you can use it for multiple things, both when it comes to physical and mental health, getting access to a doctor through mobile applications and those sort of things. So I think in general, people were positive about that there's possible to make change when it comes to health out at sea.
Was it a generational difference in people's ages?
I feel like yes and no. Like some people were very sure that there is a generational difference, but some were more talking about it, that it's more about your experience with technology, and that is what kind of differentiates like what you're in. Yeah, so not maybe the generation itself, but more about how used you are to using technology and the way you look at technology in general. Exactly.
I think I can relate to that myself, because I'm wearing a digital, an iWatch, and I'm doing a podcast, my age, and I'm trying to find out new things and more things. And I can see my friends, they are a little bit hesitant, and they think I'm a little too much when I tell them they must now adapt technology at home and learn things and know things. So I think what you're talking about when it comes to acceptance, I think that is so important for everyone.
Yeah.
Period. Everyone.
And I think it's so easy to forget, because if you're a person who are really positive to technology, I guess you also see the benefits with technology and the opportunities with it. But if you don't have that kind of positive view on technology, it can be difficult to see those benefits and opportunities.
So what does it take for us to take a bigger leap into Industry Revolution 4.0 than we are just, mini steps right now? What would it take for us to embrace it?
Communication. Like communicate the benefits of using technology and the possibilities with it, and understanding that some people are gonna accept it easier than others, and some might need more time, and that it's important to give them their time.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that's what our findings kind of illustrate, that there are different levels of acceptance, and you have to be able to sort of like meet all levels and understand that not everyone's going to be super positive towards this right away. So that's where communications of both intentions and how data will be used and those sort of things becomes crucial.
I also think good leadership.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Sure. Yeah.
Someone has to understand it at the top, why it's important, and then being able to communicate that, to show the vision of where are we going? We're going this place together.
Yeah, exactly.
And you are coming along, and let's do this. I think that is something that is needed. That's from my view, but you done the study, so...
No, but I agree.
That was something that came up a lot too, that a lot of people were discussing that they felt like the management are starting to realize that you need to go the extra mile today and focus on health and employee well-being to be able to retain a good crew and recruit new seafarers. So that was also interesting to hear that they can see that the management is starting to realize that.
Yeah, we are lacking seafarers already. And we will be lacking more seafarers further down the road.
Yeah.
So it will be the employers that is actually adapting the new stuff and the things that people want and need to work there, who will be the winners in this, I think. So this is a wake-up call.
Definitely.
So may I ask you now, when you have done your research, is there any difference in the way you look upon the maritime industry?
I think before we started doing this research, I didn't realize how important the maritime industry is. So that was interesting to read about and get a better understanding of.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, like I said before, like we both didn't know very much about the industry before we started. So we've definitely learned a lot and have a different view on the industry.
Yeah.
Because we know more about it.
And how much of a unique environment it actually is out at sea.
Yeah, this is my soapbox. I've been doing this podcast for 8 years.
Yeah.
Telling everyone we need to brand the industry in a better way, especially towards young people. We need to hang out where they are hanging out and not just speak to ourselves.
Yeah, it's very important.
What do you think we can do to become more known by young people?
But I think what you're doing, like talking about it, so you gain more insight to it. I think that's definitely a good start. And then, like you just said, now to kind of brand it in a better way, to highlight the benefits and how interesting this industry actually is. There's not just a need for improvements. It is a very cool industry, and you can have really amazing experiences by working out at sea.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something we found as well throughout this master thesis writing process. We had, seminars and things like that. So our classmates were reading our work, and they found it so interesting to read about the maritime industry because it's something you don't usually hear about. So I think people do find it interesting. It's just that we don't hear about it. So I guess finding ways to, like Charlotta said, talk about it and reach all young people, because I'm sure a lot of people will find it interesting once they hear about it.
So many cool things in this industry. You can't imagine.
Yeah.
And no day is like the next day. So there's so many things, cool things happening. And we have also got big challenges for the coming years. We also want to become a green industry and deliver goods in a more climate-friendly way, as everyone else wants. But I also think the changes that you have been talking about is also about culture.
Yeah.
I see more women in this industry now. When I started 25 years ago, I was the only woman. So I see more women, and they are coming into our industry, and they are bringing so much good things. So, yeah, maybe every company in the maritime industry should have a thesis written about it. And then they will have 2 young people coming into their offices, finding out more about the industry. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
So can you see yourself doing a career in the maritime industry now then? Or what are you aiming at?
Maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I very much enjoyed the process and reading more about the maritime industry. So it's been super fun. So yeah, possibly.
Yeah, like we said, it's a very important industry for like the whole world economy. So yeah, maybe.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to me, and best of luck with your future.
Every conversation matters.
Thank you, Sandra and Charlotta. I'm happy that you have discovered the maritime world, and I'm sure some companies in our industry need your competence. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. How can you engage more in this project? I get many inquiries from companies who want to participate, but I want to hear from you, the listener. You are my main focus and the most critical ingredient in my success. Drop me a line at hello@shippingpodcast.com and let me know what you think. Until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.